Hey guys, my name's Dave West, and in this video we're going to have a look at the Tow Boogie. What is the Tow Boogie? How to steer the Tow Boogie. I want to talk about who's it for, who's it not for, problems you might come into, how to navigate a lineup, how to get out the back, and where's the best place to use it. Because this in particular, there are places that you definitely shouldn't use it, and then there are places where it's just going to make you have the best time ever. And gear choice. As you can see, the Tow Boogie, it looks soft because it is. So this top chamber is just 2 PSI, and that's mainly just air. The top chamber can be pumped up using a pump. However, given that it's only 2 PSI, I just blow it up with my mouth, which saves me taking down another piece of gear. And then this bottom layer, which is pumped up much harder, and that is the hull essentially. So we've got a battery, we've got a server, big steering arm, and of course we've got the prop. The remote's locked. Got a nice big prop. The Tow Boogie comes with this lightweight trolley, which is actually awesome to have. My first session, I didn't use it, and it does suck carrying this thing 200-300 meters to the beach with the battery in. It's light enough for my wife to pick up with the battery in, but long carries aren't fun, so use the trolley. How's that?
Yeah, it's fine.
How do you steer the Boogie? When you're being towed, you steer the Boogie with your foil. You act as a rudder. A mistake people make immediately with their Boogie is they try and hold down the steering buttons left and right to steer. This just puts unnecessary strain on the steering system, so don't do that. You'll be amazed at how quickly it becomes second nature to steer. It's a dance between throttle and how hard you turn your foil. You can just do circles in one spot if you want, which is super useful when you're waiting for a set. You can do very hard 90 degree, 180 degree turns as you need as well. The main principle is to go straight behind the Boogie, to go straight, and to go left, you turn right. By turning right, you're pointing the nose of the Boogie to the left. And then once you're happy with where the nose of the Boogie is pointing, you straighten up behind the Boogie, which then makes the Boogie continue on that line. Trust me, it's actually really easy. Steering the Boogie when you're not holding onto it is either done automatically by the summon mode, GPS tracking, or you can steer it left and right using the remote in manual mode. The hardest time to steer the Boogie is actually when you're not using it at all. You do this by yanking on the rope to get the nose to point where you want it to go, and then accelerating, and then it will continue in that direction. If you're using a lower volume board like I am, and you're heavier like I am, and you're using a small foil, you'll often need to do a drop knee start. So essentially, you're trying to keep your body weight as close to the surface of the water as possible so that the board can get up and plane as quickly as possible. That means that the motor doesn't have to work as hard. And if you try and do just a straight sinker and just sink, the water lines say here, the board has to go from all the way down there, all the way up to here in order to get you going. Whereas when you do this, it makes it, that it's only say this far, and it does make a huge difference. I can't sink a start on a lot of the boards that I use, but I can knee start them and it works well. Once you get the board up and planing, don't go full speed, you just sort of go half speed. And then it is a little bit tricky sometimes to go from there to up. It's a lot of front leg squat, so you will get used to that. But The way around this is obviously to just use a board that's high volume, and that pretty much fixes it, and you can sinker start. I wouldn't belly start or anything like that. So drop knee or sinker. Obviously some people do the wakeboard start, you know, this one, and I would not recommend that at all. I hate that start so much, and when I see people do it, it just looks difficult. So learn the drop knee, learn the drop knee. Battery life. In terms of battery life, I have been getting a solid 2 hours out of a battery on the 720 code foil and a 411 cruiser at 34 litres. It's seriously impressive the amount of battery life you get, and I often don't use the whole battery because I get too sunburnt first. So if you don't know by now, the basic premise of the boogie is get it to tow you around. You obviously steer it with the foil as we discussed. What you do is you get onto the wave, let go of the rope, and let go of the trigger. When you let go of the trigger, it'll then automatically detect that you've gotten a certain distance away from it, and it will swap across to auto summon mode automatically most of the time. And I'll come back to this caveat. You then ride the wave, and the tow boogie follows in behind you and meets you when you finish. Once in auto summon mode, you are still in control of the boogie's speed, and you need to use the accelerator trigger to control this. However, the rudder on the boogie will be controlled by the GPS tracking following the remote. So it will follow you. You need to make sure you have a green light. If you don't have a green light on your remote in auto summon mode, it means there isn't enough satellites for the GPS track to lock onto your position accurately. If this happens and you're not aware of it, the tow boogie will drive in a straight line wherever you left it. So it's something to be careful of. The other issue is user error when you haven't let go of the trigger when you get onto a wave. So it hasn't had the chance to swap into auto summon mode, and it's still in manual mode, and wherever you left it pointing, it'll accelerate away from you. The red flashing light is always something you need to be aware of. Okay, so I'm in auto summon mode, but it's red. Now this means that the satellites, it doesn't have enough satellites, and it's not actually going to track you. So you don't go by what it says, you got to go by the light. Now on occasions in bigger waves, it'll lose connection as you bottom turn via the remote. So you still need to be aware of your connection throughout your surfing. For me, a lot of the time, I ride a foil that I can pump, and I essentially whip myself into a wave, link 4 or 5 waves, then I pump back out to where the boogie is. It's less stress, and I'll break this down further in Who's It For. I essentially leave the boogie out the back and only use it as a chip in. I don't get it to follow me. One of the awesome features of the boogie is the offset follow. I do use this, and this is where the boogie is going to track the line that you're on, but offset itself by 40 or 50 meters. This is perfect for point breaks, and it means that the boogie is not going to be trying to follow you through the lineup. It can actually be all the way off to the side, avoiding obstacles and, most importantly, people. Where is it for? The ideal setup is an empty point break. My best tow boogie sessions are somewhere that there is calm water somewhere off to the side of the waves. Bringing your boogie into the wave zone is a bad idea. It can handle waves crashing, no worries, that's not the issue. Because the connection is by line of sight, the boogie can easily lose connection in the impact zone, and also it's extremely hard to get out and up and over when you're being towed by the boogie. The boogie will get out easy, but while you're being towed by the boogie, it will struggle to get you out the back. All my drama so far with the boogie have been in beach breaks. I've learned that more often than not, it's best to leave the boogie out the back, and if you crash on the inside, you just paddle back out to the back of the lineup and meet the boogie. You need to understand that the tow boogie won't save you in beach break scenarios like some other foil assists can. This is a big distinction. So you really shouldn't have it out in conditions that you wouldn't normally feel comfortable proning in. Now back to best spots. Isolated reef breaks are perfect. They have calm water either side of them, anywhere that there isn't people. My enjoyment level goes down hugely if people start popping up when I'm on a tow boogie session, and you have to be hyper vigilant about your distance from people. I have a spot where I can chip in and I'm at least 250 meters away from people. The sets break wide and then they come through into the normal break. I catch them out wide and I pump all the way across to where they start to get better, but then I pump all the way back out to where the boogie left me. So being able to pump in my opinion, is essential. The other conditions you need to be aware of is strong offshore winds. You do not want your tow boogie blowing out to sea. If the wind's strong enough, the tow boogie could move faster than you can paddle after it if you lose connection for whatever reason. Windy conditions in general are a bit tricky for the boogie, and it can tend to nosedive if you get a certain angle of chop. It's still doable, but it just gets a little bit frustrating. So who is this for? Firstly, like all foiling tools, it requires competence and knowledge to enjoy it. And the more you have, the more you'll enjoy it. I once gave a friend a go without giving them much instruction, and he drove the boogie out to sea and then by accident followed by beaching it a good 500 meters away from us. So no matter how good a foiler you are, you still need to learn how to use it. Flat water sessions are key first to figure it all out. In my opinion, the more advanced you are as a foiler, the better suited the boogie will be for you. Being able to pump and link 4 to 10 waves consistently is the best metric. Not falling often is also best. Like I said, other assists can get you out of the impact zone pretty easily, but the boogie won't. Beginner foilers can absolutely use the boogie. Are you a good enough foiler to link, not fall often, be aware of the boogie's position, the remote, and still enjoy yourself? Just be realistic.
One of the realities of the boogie is you really need to be able to pump back out to it.
For anyone thinking of downwinding with it, I do not recommend it whatsoever. I'm not going to say that that's something that will suit almost anybody. There might be one use case, but for the most part, no downwinding. For the dock start community, I absolutely think this would be super fun because you'll be able to tow yourself up anywhere and anywhere and pump around to your heart's content. You'll be able to get up smaller foils as well, and you can just go and explore as well. For me, as a tester of gear and team rider, it's so great to be able to go out to a flat water session, test a bunch of foils, pump them around, figure out my mast position, all those sort of things in a controlled environment. I love my foil drive, but I can't truly test the foil's pump, for example, in a controlled environment with the foil drive on because of the extra weight. I'd really need a jet ski, and for me, the tow boogie is a true replacement of the jet ski. Overall, the quieter place you live and the better you are, the better suited I think the tow boogie will be for you. I should also mention the trickiest crowd I've had to manage to date was actually foil drivers and e-foilers in the lineup.
And it's funny, I'm quickly realising that the most people we're going to get the way of are other assists. So foil drivers are out here, and I'm sort of giving them right away, not trying to get too close, and not driving the boogie. Follow me. I can't be back out to it because I don't know where they're going to go, and they don't know where the boogie's going to go. So it's funny, like in a way, we're going to crowd our uncrowded spots with assists. So that'll be interesting.
Mostly my frustrations with the boogie have been about connection losses in turbulent seas. In big waves, you easily lose line of sight of the boogie, and despite it being very close to you, maybe within 50 meters, there's a mountain of water between you and the boogie, so it won't connect. It happens fairly regularly, and I do wish it had a better connection somehow without line of sight. I think knowing it's going to happen will reduce your frustration when it does happen. You'll spend a lot of time with your arm up in the air trying to get a connection. Sometimes it's easier to just paddle after your boogie. In my mind, I consider the boogie a true chip-in. Then I just leave it where I took off from and I find my way back to it. I feel like I can then foil without worry of what it's doing, and so often you don't want it to come back into the impact zone anyway, so best to just leave it out the back. Everyone's going to find their unique ways of using the boogie, but for me it's the way I've found that I have zero stress and I can just surf the waves as I need, and it's a better workout. The battery can get you about 30 kilometers, so you can easily launch from a spot that might be calm and go and find your way to the waves that you want to surf, then find your way back. Just be aware of your battery life. I have been caught out before as well. Similar to foil assist, foil drive, a longer board is ideal for the boogie. I can tow myself up with my 4.6 Amos prone board, but it's way easier with my 411 cruiser. For less athletic folks, using a wingboard will give you heaps of battery life, and you could ride any foil you wanted, keeping in mind everything else I mentioned. I still think it's important for your setup that you can pump it. Don't use the smallest tow foil that you have, use something that you'd normally prone on. I'm pretty blown away by the foils that I can tow up with such a small boogie, And that has been something that's really been enjoyable. So my final thoughts, I absolutely love my Tow Boogie. I want to put eyeballs on it because it's like a friend that comes to bring you good times. I love it so much that it's ruined sessions for me. Why, you ask? Because there's too many people around and I can't use the boogie, and it pisses me off. That's the truth. There is extra work in carting it around, and it takes up a fair amount of space in my car, and you've got to take it out and rinse it off and blow it up by mouth. But a jet ski is way more work and way less rewarding and requires another person and a lot more money. I know you'll all want me to compare it to a four-wheel drive, and it's not a cop-out when I say they're not really comparable. They both do so many things differently. They're challenging in different ways. They have different upsides and downsides. It's up to you to weigh the cons and pros of your ability, conditions, disciplines you want to do, and which will give you the best fun. If you've been considering a jet ski, then it's an easy choice. I was going to get a jet ski and now I'm not. That says something. You can definitely get away with a four-wheel drive in more populated areas. Boogie, not as much. The boogie is unmanned and chasing you, and if you hit a swimmer, it's not going to be good for foiling in general. That applies to all electric foils. You are less likely, in my opinion, to hit somebody with an e-foil, despite me having watched it happen recently. The fact that you're untethered to the boogie a lot of the time is its greatest benefit and its greatest downside. This is an incredible product, and I will finish with one final complaint. If you think it's bad, people coming up and talking to you about foils, wait until you walk around with a Tow Boogie. As always, have fun foiling.